James.Legge was a Scottish sinologist, missionary, and scholar, best known as an early and prolific translator of classical Chinese texts into English. Legge served as a representative of the London Missionary Society in Malacca and Hong Kong and was the first professor of Chinese at Oxford University. In association with Max Müller, he prepared the monumental Sacred Books of the East series, published in 50 volumes between 1879 and 1891. Life. James.Legge was born at Huntly, Aberdeenshire. He enrolled in Aberdeen Grammar School at age 13 and then King's College, Aberdeen at age 15. After studying at the Highbury Theological College, London, he went in 1839 as a missionary to China, but remained at Malacca 3 years, in charge of the Anglo-Chinese college there. The college was subsequently moved to Hong Kong, where Legge lived for nearly 30 years. A Chinese Christian, Wat Nong, accompanied Legge when he moved in 1844. He returned home to Huntly, Aberdeenshire, in 1846–7, taking with him 3 Chinese students. Legge and the students were received by Queen Victoria before his return to Hong Kong. Legge married twice, first to Mary Isabella Morrison and after she died to a widow, Hannah Mary Willits. Translating the classics, convinced of the need for missionaries to be able to comprehend the ideas and culture of the Chinese, he began in 1841 a translation in many volumes of the Chinese classics, a monumental task that he completed a few years before his death. During his residence in Hong Kong, he translated Chinese classic literature into English with the help of Wang Tao and Hong Rengan, among others. He was the headmaster at Yinghua College in Hong Kong from 1839 to 1867, and pastor of the Union Church there from 1844 to 1867. He was third and final editor of the Chinese Serial, the first Chinese newspaper in Hong Kong. The paper closed in May 1856. In 1867, Legge returned to Dollar in Clackmannanshire, Scotland, where he invited Wang Tao to join him, and received his LL.D. from the University of Aberdeen in 1870. While in Scotland, he also revisited his native borough, Huntly, accompanied by Wang Tao. He then returned to Hong Kong as pastor at Union Church from 1870 to 1873. While in Hong Kong, he published The Shi King in 1871, which, according to Peter France, is the first substantial volume of Chinese poetry in English translation still in use. The work underwent a new edition in 1876 in verse. He took a long trip to North China, beginning the 2nd of April 1873 in Shanghai, arriving at Tianjin by boat, then traveling by mule cart and arriving in Peking on the 16th of April 1873, where he stayed at the London Missionary Society headquarters. He visited the Great Wall, Ming tombs and the Temple of Heaven, where he felt compelled to take off his shoes with holy awe. He left Peking, accompanied by Joseph Edkins, and headed for Shandong by mule cart to visit Jinan, Taishan, where they ascended the sacred Mount Tai, carried by 4 men on chairs. Leaving Mount Tai on the 15th of May, they visited Confucius Temple and the Forest of Confucius at Khufu, where he climbed to the top of the Confucius Burial Mound. Legge returned to Shanghai by way of the Grand Canal, and thence to England via Japan and the USA in 1873. Oxford professor. In 1875 he was named Fellow of Corpus Christi College, Oxford, and in 1876 assumed the new chair of Chinese language and literature at Oxford, where he attracted few students to his lectures but worked hard for some 20 years in his study at 3 Keble Terrace, on his translations of the Chinese classics. According to an anonymous contemporary obituary in the Pall Mall Gazette, Legge was in his study every morning at 3 o'clock, winter and summer, having retired to bed at 10. When he got up in the morning, the first thing he did was to make himself a cup of tea over a spirit lamp. Then he worked away at his translations while all the household slept. In his book The Religions of China, Confucianism and Taoism described and compared with Christianity, published in 1880, he wrote that he encountered a mosque in Canton which had a placard denouncing foot binding, saying Islam did not allow it since it constituted violating the creation of God. Legge was an ardent opponent of Britain's opium policy, and was a founding member of the Society for the Suppression of the Opium Trade. In addition to his other work, Legge read The Life and Teaching of Confucius, The Life and Teaching of Mencius, The Religions of China, and other books on Chinese literature and religion. Legge was given an honorary M.A. University of Oxford, and LL.D. University of Edinburgh. 1884. Legge died at Oxford in 1897 and is buried in Wolvercote Cemetery. Many of his manuscripts and letters are archived at the School of Oriental and African Studies. Selected works. Legge's most enduring work has been the Chinese classics, with a translation, critical and exegetical notes, prolegomena, and copious indexes. 5 vols. Volume 1, Confucian Analects, The Great Learning, and the Doctrine of the Mean. Revised 2nd edition, Oxford, Clarendon Press, reprinted by Cosimo in 2006. The Confucian Analects, Volume 2, The Works of Mencius, revised 2nd edition, Oxford, Clarendon Press, reprinted by Dover Books in 1990. Volume 3, The Shu King, Part 2, Chapters 37 to 58 and Indexes. Volume 4, The Shi King, Part 1, Prolegomena and First Section, Part 2, Second, Third and Fourth Sections. Part 2, Books 9 to 12. These contain parallel Chinese and English text, with detailed notes, introductions and indexes. Chinese names are transcribed in Legge's own romanization. Legge originally planned his Chinese classics as 7 volumes, but his translations of the I Ching and Book of Rites were instead included in the Sacred Books of the East series edited by Max Müller. Volume 3, The Shu King. The religious portions of the Shi King. The Shao King. Volume 16, The Yi King. The Li Qi, 2 vols. Volume 28, Chapters 11 to 46. The Texts of Taoism, the Tao Teh King, The Writings of Guam Dze, 2 vols. Volume 39, Tao Te Ching and Chang Su Books 1 to 17. Volume 40, Chang Su Books 18 to 33 and shorter works. The Tai Shangdan Ying Pian, the King Jing Jing, the Yin Fu Jing, the Yu Su Jing and the Neri Yong Jing. Other works, The Religions of China, Confucianism and Taoism described and compared with Christianity, London, Hodder and Stoughton, 1880. The Nestorian Monument of HSI and Fu in Shen HSI, China, London, Trubner and Amp Co. 1888. REPR New York. Paragon Book, 1966, ISBN 97808188062-7.